Close that. Okay. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So folks, great. Thanks for being here and being on time and being in a great place that I hope you got some choice in this. So we'll be able to make this thing happen for you in a quick, very fast 40 minutes. So I'm supposed to just kind of show all of these things to you. I think you're going to get in your next session that you're going to have. And so there's the essential learning. I'm one, maybe the only one, if not one of only a few people who is outside your district that's presenting. So we're from the 10 to 10:40 time slot. I'm supposed to stop a few minutes ahead of time on that one to make sure I get some things going. But my name is Loyal Frazier. I am a very long time high school teacher, TCI trainer since my beginning of my third year teaching, and I've been using TCI in my classroom since my second month as a teacher. Born and raised in Ventura, went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, taught in El Centro, California for a zillion years, coached volleyball out there. One year we played Poway in the playoffs, and that didn't last long. And so there's my familiarity with that. And my job is to go through a couple of things, navigating lessons in TCI, some of the new features we may have. I am going to put in right now, and I'll do it again later as well, a link to the Google Doc that is for questions that don't get answered here. I would love to use the chat. It typically doesn't slow me down. It actually helps direct me to things that you want that are going to be useful for you today. So I'll sort of begin with some basic overview for those folks who have not done a lot or heard a lot about TCI. And if there is something that comes up that you want to take me somewhere a little more directly, for me to be able to answer. If I can answer it in the time that we have, I'll do so. And if not, you can put it on this Google Doc. I will go through and answer them after this meeting, and then you'll have what you need when we fully get going. So without further ado on any of that, I'm just going to let you know very quickly, these are the programs you have access to. I am taking the 5th grade America's Past to do a quick just model through the look, the feel, the navigation, the language. It's really all the same in every program. So it doesn't really matter which one I'm on. I just picked one, and that's the one I chose. I happen to love that one, so it was easy for me to just go ahead and choose it. And I'm going to go live here shortly into my program. If you have access to yours and you want to be on there and follow along, that's fantastic. And then that way direct questions toward me if you have them, and I'll take you there. But I guess the first thing, maybe the most important thing for you to know about TCI, if you don't know anything about us yet, is that being a California-based company, we're very familiar with what goes on in California and the needs and desires of teachers and kids. And we are very much hands-on. That's the heart of TCI. Every single lesson, chapter, if you will, has at least one engaging activity for students to interact with social studies curriculum. The text, the interactive student notebook, and all the other things are tools to facilitate the learning that goes on with the engaging activity inside the classroom. This happens to be a 5th grade lesson using tug of war to show how the American colonists were able to win the Revolutionary War. And that is, first of all, it's fantastic. I love this one because I got to pilot it when it first came out in my daughter's 5th grade class. Didn't know the teacher, didn't know most of the kids, had a great time, went back 3 weeks later and assessed the kids, and the scores were off the charts. And I had already been sold on TCI, but I was sold on our new textbook at that point in time. And so I'm going to make sure that you see another one of these as we go through live in my subscription anyway. And hopefully that will facilitate some questions and some needs and things that you may need along the way. So I'm going to pull over my live subscription for you to be able to see. And yours will look very much like this with the purple sidebar, with our relatively new landing page that shows both student work and current assignments. Those were split into two. Now they're one if you've used us for a while. And my hope is that this has been streamlined so much that it's going to be very, very simple for you to follow if you're new to this, and if the changes that we've made would make it easier for you if you've been with us for a while. And so as I move through here, I'm going to pick some of the highlights because of the amount of time we have, and you can certainly drill down in deeper with me if you would like. And so probably the most important thing, if I didn't know anything about this, is quickly going over our unit and our lesson overviews. And that way I can show you a number of features embedded within that. So I'll start with the unit. Click on that if you're following along. You can't hurt anything. You can click anywhere you'd like to click. And I can close my sidebar so I can see everything. And I'm going to focus first on the units, then on the libraries, and then on a specific lesson is where I'll go. So our unit projects are, because so many states are doing what California is doing now and focusing on inquiry, our unit projects are designed to follow the inquiry process to revisit our project at the end of every lesson, gathering data to be able to interact with the with any of the culminating questions that we have within every lesson. So I will not spend a lot of time on the unit projects. It's something that is pretty simple and very optional. But since a lot of teachers like a beginning and an end and tie a little bow around it, we've created that beginning and that end that explains the beginning and revisits it after each lesson. So then we can use our KWL chart, come in and put what we've learned in each lesson, and then be able to interact with it afterwards. So it's very simple and it's not necessary to do. And a lot of teachers enjoy it and some teachers skip it. So I just wanted to let you know that was there in case you have not been with us in a while. The real magic happens in the lesson overview, and that's where I'm going to head. So I chose a lesson that I love from Unit 2, and it's about European exploration. And so you can see here it's lesson 4. If you happen to be a 5th grade teacher and want to follow along with this exact lesson, you certainly can. And we invented this little orangish box here during distance learning. May that never happen again, just so that we could support teachers when we couldn't get out to you to support you. And if I hit this little see more here and open it up, it's very detailed. This is where I would spend most of my time in my planning, whether I plan a lesson at a time or a unit at a time. We have taken the lessons and given you a nice overview, made a quick link to all the materials that could be necessary to teach the lesson. In this particular one, these picture cards would be necessary and nothing else would need to be printed if I didn't want to print it. Step-by-step, very detailed procedures in ways that you can teach this lesson. And there's a lot of flexibility and options to teaching a TCI lesson. And I'll share that in just a moment. What do you need to prepare for a lesson? And we really try to save you time. Time's the biggest 4-letter word with teaching. And we want to make sure that because you have a million things to do, that we save you as much time as we possibly can. And so we outline it in detail. We've saved you steps along the way, and hopefully you can be ready to teach virtually every lesson very quickly in a TCI classroom. The two that are probably the most important on here are these last two. We have gone through and differentiated every lesson for you because there is no classroom that I have run up against that has the same exact learning group in all of the students that are in the classroom. There's always things that need to be changed within a lesson, accommodations, if you will, just to make sure that we can meet the needs of every student. So we have automatic ones, and I will show you some of these in a minute, but we have text to speech, we have a number of interactive reading tools, and we have individualized student settings to help you meet the needs of each student. A toolkit designed for some general ways to differentiate instruction, and then the very specific ways right here for 4 different learning groups: English learners, below grade level, special ed, and advanced. These are lesson specific. It won't be the same in the next lesson, but it is a fantastic start to helping you be able to change things up in your classroom. And other students won't even necessarily know that you did this for a particular group. I've found that when I make most of my accommodations for students, it doesn't hurt students who don't need them. And so it just goes for everyone. And a lot of that will be true with these. That's a really key point for a TCI classroom to be able to help with that. And the other one is more optional and really more fun, the enhancing learning. There's a lot of possibilities here. None of them are mandatory. If you do choice boards, there's a lot of great ideas in here to choose to put on those kinds of things. There's lots of websites, readings that could be put in there, web quests. This particular lesson is about a sunken ship, where students will go down and gather a bunch of artifacts and examine them. And so we've got a number of things that deal with marine archaeology, etc., that the kids can look at. There's a lot of fun ones. We've vetted them all, but some of them will have ads. You should probably look at them before you just blindly assign them to your kids. Lots of people miss these. They may get the orange box, but they stop at the overview. And there's a lot of things there that are designed to help you, the teacher, be able to adapt this lesson to fit the needs of you and your students. So that's the little orange box. And if anything pops up for you, you can certainly reach out on that chat box for me. So there are a number of ways to be able to teach a lesson, and we have 3 and sometimes 4 of those ways embedded in each lesson. The one that I'll open shortly, the one that we advocate that has the interactive lesson built into it, is this Classroom Activity 2.0. It replaces the Classroom Activity 1.0 just because it's got some online features that are better. The lesson is the same. Both of them have the hands-on activity. When we put the 2.0 in, we actually took 1.0 out, and we had kind of a widespread meltdown from some teachers who really liked this one and wanted to keep this one. So we put it back in. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to use the more recent version, however. Time sometimes dictates that we can't go in depth, which these always take a little more time because they are an engaging activity. This is just the text and the interactive student notebook. That's all it is. Faster, less engagement. And this one is an extra activity that can be done in place of this, again, for time, can be done in addition to the activity slideshow if you like the focus that it has. We'll see what that one is in a little bit. And then every lesson has 1 or more things that will allow you to dive deeper. Again, very optional. It's impossible to teach everything that we have. We don't want you to have to invent things if you don't want to. So the biggest decision you may have to make is, what don't I teach? What don't I do? Which direction do I go? And so by the time you get here to the little orange box, if you knew how much time you wanted to spend on this, whether that be in days or minutes, that's going to help you with the planning. And so I will visit the reading in a bit, but I wanted to open up the classroom activity slideshow. And before I do, I just want you to know it's editable. You can hide slides, change text, add visuals, rearrange slides, just like you would in a Google slide deck or PowerPoint, and it saves it for you. And so I'm just going to click on it and open it. And if you're following along and you want to do that, that's fantastic. So this lesson's really engaging. I love this. And we, on the first page, and this is something that's new on the 2.0 that wasn't on the 1.0, is we have time chunks in here. For some of the lower grades, the time chunks are a little smaller. This is fifth grade, so the time chunks are slightly bigger. Every TCI lesson has three main components to it: a preview, which accesses prior knowledge, very short. This one's a little longer. I'll tell you, when I do this lesson, I shorten it, however. And they don't need to be graded, although you can grade anything. And they're supposed to be a nice segue into the lesson or the activity. This usually takes the most time and can be divided into pieces. And the processing is the third key component. That is something that takes whatever was learned or gone over up here and does something with it to help cement it into the student's brain. Typically, we bring in English language arts strategies to help support that and hopefully cover two lessons at the same time, again, to save time. Here's that extra optional. We always put some vocabulary in there to reinforce that. We would consider that optional if you have ways you already do vocabulary. So I could jump anywhere in here, depending on where I happen to be in the lesson. But if I was just looking at this and if I'm fifth grade and I've got a regular class period 4 times a week, I can do this in 3 days, 4 days, whole thing absolutely covered. Or I can shave some time and do it in less time if I need to. When I've covered this one, it's very easy for me to do the whole thing in two 40-minute segments if I want to do it that way. So it's very customizable for you. So I'll just quickly jump to the preview. This little deal here is something you can share with the students if you want to, or the students could be open to the online text and interactive student notebook here, or you could have them have a hard copy text making their own notebook, or having the soft bound interactive student notebook that we provide. All of those are just options of ways that you can have your students interact with the text and the notebook. If you're worried about too much screen time, you can certainly have them writing. It completely and totally depends on you. And so if you want to, they could have this in front of them, and I have this up here on the screen for them. The only difference is theirs does not say show answer key and yours does. So the preview is just about taking a trip with your family. Where would you want to go? Obviously, they want to go to Oklahoma because they've heard how beautiful it is. And so they put that in there. At the students at the bottom, it will have a little save. I think it says turn in tab. And that lets me know that I would need to grade it digitally if they were doing it this way. And so this is just for planning a trip. If I don't want to worry about the tools, which I typically don't, that's where I save a little bit of time. And we just have fun about where they're going to go on a vacation or a trip, because this is all about the explorers going on a trip and what tools would they need to use on the trip. Very fast, very quick. If I was having them go through the reading this way, then that same question is down here on the bottom. They could fill it out digitally here. It would still be turned in and be graded. You see, I did it in one place, not both, saved it at the same timestamp for them. And so immediately it pops up on my side that says this could be graded right now if I wanted to grade it, and I'm ready to go and I'm off and running. So I typically, for me, do this one or have the hard copy text. That's I really like them doing a notebook with pen and paper now, especially since we're so digital in so many places. So oftentimes I don't even have this open. But what I have found out in the last 2 years for me, I teach predominantly ninth grade, and I haven't had a student in the last 2 years reading at grade level when they came into my class at the start of the school year. Some as low as 5 grade levels below where they need to be. So the online text has a whole lot of helps for those kids. So I will tend to now have a mix in my classroom. Some of the kids will be digital, some of the kids will be print. So very quickly, the digital helps that we give are a different reading level. and this is for second grade and up. A is on grade level, B is approximately 25% lower Lexile. That's going to save a half a grade to a grade as you go along. Immediate help to kids. I can lock them into either one of these. The default option is they pick. So what I've done the last 2 years, I locked every one of my kids into level B and opened them up one kid at a time, as I've had some kids get up to grade level. It will read it aloud to them. We can use main ideas where it will click it and show it in blue. We have a highlighting tool and a note box that will only show up on the kids side right now. It comes up at the top here, and these notes and the highlighter are saved for them all year long over here on the My Notes tab on the purple sidebar. So it's a great way to teach organizational skills. If you want to, it's great to have that information handy to study or to do a project of some sort and have the information at hand. But all of those are great, but there's others that are embedded just naturally. For instance, we're single column and purposeful white space so as not to overwhelm the student that is a little behind or struggling in reading. They get very overwhelmed by a super busy page. So we try to purposefully not have a super busy page. The visuals, which are supposed to be a help for students, match the text that's on the page, gives them a little magnifying glass in case they want to go down and see exactly what it is they're looking for. Again, this is something that advanced readers don't need, but it certainly does not hurt them to have this here if learning is our goal. There is a reading check in most, in some cases, all of the sections that are designed to reinforce one of the main ideas up above. They're all very simple. They're designed to be formative, but a lot of teachers asked for them to be gradable, so we made it gradable for you, and you can give them a grade. They're all drop down, multiple choice type of answers, nothing you would ever need to grade. The software will grade it for them, and it will go straight into your grade book. And then down below that is the interactive student notebook. There's only one other thing to show you. There just oftentimes are not any of them in the introductory places of a lesson. But the vocabulary terms that we have, which are content vocabulary, we know struggling readers tend to not go anywhere to find them. So we have a click and it's right there. And in the hard copy text, it's on the page of first use. And for them to be able to, again, try to reinforce the using of these vocabulary terms so they can make it one of their own. So those are all of the things that are right there to help you. The only other one, and not every student needs it, but over on the purple sidebar, all the way down at the bottom, it says the word English with a little caret. And if I go and click and change it to Spanish, then everything in the program, no matter what page you're on, will go to Spanish. It will read it aloud in Spanish. And you can see that this little box shows up here. We have partnered with Google Translate for their whatever 130 languages that they have. And if I were to change it to Russian, which I cannot read or pronounce, it would change to Russian. It would read it aloud in Russian, etc. And it would stay that way. I've had 2 teachers in the last week, 2 different cities, tell me they need Farsi. Farsi is in here. How perfect it is, I don't know, but it certainly is better than what they had prior to that, which was absolutely nothing. So I know you don't all need Spanish, but I do know some of you probably do need it, and there it is for you. So when I'm over on my lesson now, and I leave this preview, I'm going to have a reading link here in a number of places. And if I click on it, it's going to open up the same reading that we were just at. It even saved I got to go through and clean that up. It's the same reading. It just doesn't have the interactive student notebook below it. So oftentimes that's why I leave that whole section open so I can see it all. Completely up to you. You can do that any way you would like. And I'm going through my directions, complete with possible answers in case I need that. and we're finishing up the introduction about a sunken ship. It takes me now, if that was a day for me that I'd spent on the preview and going over the tools and doing the little introduction there, then great. And then I can go into the next day when I'm going to dive for artifacts. So this is the engaging hands-on lesson. It is designed to be informative, fun, and interactive all at the same time. So this would take us to section 1, which I'm not going to go to right now. This shows how the room could be set up. We give you instructions in that little orange box that I told you about to make the outline of a ship in painter's tape and then section it off and grid it, which there's an explanation of why they grid things earlier in that preview. And then there are 8 artifacts with which the students are going to have a chance to interact. I actually I bought a twin sheet at Walmart and made a ship on it in painter's tape and did it all up. And I roll it out, I do the lesson, I fold it up. I don't ever have to do that again. I love it when I don't have to continue to spend lots and lots of time on things. So they're going to be an underwater archaeologist. They're going to get objects from the ship's hull, come up, figure it out, and put it back. And I'll take you through what that looks like. These are the 8. I don't even know that I need to show them these beforehand, but there's a slide there for you to see that. These are the picture cards. This is a quick way to go through it, but you can either purchase them, or maybe you already have them, or you can print them. One of the students is going to be a diver. The other student's going to be a research scientist. They tend to argue over that, and the joke is that they're going to switch after each turn. And so they're both going to swim a couple of times, and they're both going to be the research scientist a couple of times. And the idea is the diver will dive, with air quotes, down. I tend to put a tarp or a blanket over the top of this to make it a little darker. I have some bendy straws that I give to the students so they have a breathing apparatus. I have them swim. They give me their best underwater swim. I have prizes for that. And then I have a little bottle of water on mist, and I'll actually spray a little mist like they're getting wet down there. You could do anything you want to do to be able to have fun with this. But the point is, one dives down, takes something from, let's say, B1, brings it back up. The research scientist is going to lead in a sketch and the answering of a little information from it. They will switch. The research scientist will take it down, put it back, grab another one. That's the order of things. There we go. So they will need the textbook to be used for the way we intended it, as a tool for learning, going through the engaging activity. And we even provide reading strategies and other things as they go through. Really, that's not for them to open up. It's just for you in case you need help. And we even put in a timer with some incredible underwater sounds that come through, just adds an element of fun to it. But it's a timer. I get lost in things sometimes, and time gets away from me. And this lets me know, well, I spent 10 minutes now on this, and I can start it over again or make adjustments as I need to. Okay. So if I'm going through all of that, let me back up one. I'll show you that in a second. And they're going through the same type of thing over here. As I go down to, let's just pick a section, doesn't really matter which section I have. So this particular one is going to have a thing called the Astrolab in it, picture of it over here. When I pull up the Astrolab, on it, it will say, go to section 2 of the text, and there's going to be some information on the Astrolab down here. The students now, I could have printed this out in paper or had it in my softbound interactive student notebook. This is a brand new, just out for 2 weeks, drawing tool. It's actually far superior to what we had before. And the students can put in a text box wherever it needs to go here. I can make it as big as I need to make it. I could type in the answer to the question, which you'll see what it is, saves it automatically. And I'm filling this out as I go through every artifact that I get to. I can do it right here. The astrolab was important to explorers because, and they complete that sentence right there. And I have all the information that I need. I switch. We deliver this back down into the hull of the ship, grab a new one, and we go through. No magic to getting all 8 done. Um, if I identify 2 or 3 of them that I really want them to do, I can tell them do 6. Make sure you do C2 and D2. I put a few more examples of those down in there because I know more kids are going to get them, and I go through. The idea is they're learning about the artifacts and they're going to do something with them in a minute. One of the things that we're attempting to do, and it's not easy, but I mean there's so many absences today, more so post-COVID than pre-COVID, that we want to find ways for students to still be able to get what they need and fulfill the standards. And so if they come here and they missed this lesson, but they still want to do it, we've got this built in where students find the object, still go in and fill out the interactive student notebook that the way they were filling it out. They just aren't doing it with a partner. They aren't really having the fun to dive, but they are getting the meat that they need in order to be able to complete the lesson. We will be making more and more things like this to help out with this phenomenon of absences that are going crazy for us lately. So the next parts are just every single section of the text and the things that go, the artifacts that are being used with it. And so I can go through these really fast because we don't need to waste time in it. You can see how the text is a tool. It's not just sit down and read the whole text and answer a bunch of questions. Now, if you like, and I love this part because I want to move up Bloom's taxonomy and do something a little bit more in depth. So we can have them learn to categorize here with their partner all 8 of these into a category. I can have them do it by themselves. Then I can do this by a class where they put this in here and they have some great discussion as a class, because some of these could go possibly in more than one category, and it's super high level thinking, all based around these artifacts that explorers found as they went along. I'll skip the read and do and vocabulary, just do a little show and tell on the processing. I told you often it helps with English language arts. This is a writing in an exploration log that they would do. We give you some format here and how they can write it. You can absolutely change that any way you want to. But then if this is done digitally, then I would be able to go in and grade it here. And if they do it in pen and paper, then I'd obviously go in and be able to grade it that way. And then the end of that portion there. So that is a super quick nutshell on the lesson. I have just a couple of minutes since I don't see any questions currently, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that I think are wonderful and could help you. I will tell you that every single lesson has a lesson game with it. Actually, in most cases, they have more than one lesson game. There's always a review game. There is always, almost always, I think we're going to get to always here soon, a vocabulary game. And then we've given all of these grades access to our state capitals game, because different states cover that in different grade levels. And so that's there for you if you like as well. These are wonderful. They're all digital. They can be done multiple times. This one can be a pre-quiz, a post-quiz, a review game, whatever you want it to be. They are wonderful online-only tools to be able to reinforce learning with the students. For those of you that really work on vocabulary and want some other tools, there's a vocabulary card section here that I can actually edit and create my own and add vocabulary cards for vocabulary that I want to work on that TCI didn't put in there. And I can add visuals. So 5th grade doesn't have visuals. Kinder, 1st, and I believe 2nd have vocabulary cards, or pictures in their vocabulary cards. And if I can get this thing open here, I can go and add images to cards I make or cards that are already there. So if that's something that interests you, it's great. If you just have 5 minutes, go practice this. They quiz each other and they start to learn those vocabulary words and be able to make them part of their own vocabulary. We have a robust assessment bank if you like. I won't open it at this point in time, but it's wonderful. And I will tell you that we have some professional development courses, and I think I need to show that to you because some people aren't here and they're watching this. We have some of the things that I briefly went over right here with navigating and planning and assigning and grading that are a little bit more in depth. If you happen to connect with Google Classroom, Schoology, or Canvas, we have a lesson or a module on that as well. You get certificates with these. It can help with your professional development hours, but it's just a chance for you to be able to connect if you'd like to connect with these things and learn them. So I am to the point where I have about 4 minutes left or so, and I am supposed to make sure that I put this in the chat one more time. Should you have any follow-up questions, that link's in the chat for the second time. It's the same link and it's on here on the screen. I will check that out and answer those so you can have those answers. And if you have any questions right now that you'd like to put in the chat, I would be more than happy to answer those for you. If not, I could certainly wait here. I'm not in any hurry. I don't have a second session, but I know you do. And I think, oh, that's up here. Your second one will start at 10:50, and you've chosen whatever topic you want to go to there as well. So if you have anything, please feel free to jump out and let me know that. If not, we're down to approximately 3 minutes, and it is your life and your job to do what you see fit right now. So I'm going to stop the recording.